Okay, so we discussed production function in the previous class. Okay, so let me bring it here. Okay, so we discussed production function in the previous class, and here you see that there are four types of inputs, and technology was outside the bracket. So the first question that came into mind is that why technology is outside the bracket and why inputs are inside the bracket. So the answer is that when we talk about the production function, okay, these inputs are controllable. Means manager knows, manager can can anytime hire or fire any of the input. Means he can employ more labor, or he can fire any of the labor. He can buy more machines, or he can reduce the machines. He can expand the land of the business, or he can add more owners into the structure. So since they are easily controllable whenever they want, that's why they are within the function. But this a is a technology that a is not controllable, because when you are using best possible technology, so you don't know when you will get the new technology. So the new technology is so new a depends upon R&D, research and development expenses, research work. So it will take time to create new technology. So we do not know when a new invention will come. Okay, so since we don't know, so we cannot tell when we can increase or decrease. So that's why we put it outside. So for a manager, A is constant. That's why it is outside the bracket. So anything that is constant do not come within the brackets. Anything that can be changed or controlled comes within the bracket. So that's why there are four inputs and one factor. So A is constant. It's also known as factor. So A could change, but it is not controllable by the manager of the business. That's why we put it outside the bracket. Okay. Next, now we are going to move towards next point. So by the end of last topic, we discussed that if we divide the cost into four types, so total cost is wage plus interest rate plus rent plus profit expense. So these are four expenditures that a business face in producing items. So wage expense will come from the number of labor that they employ. Interest expense will come from the capital that they employ. Rental expense will come from the land that they employ, and the profit expense will come from the owners that they add on. So means they are sharing the ownership. So means they are working in a partnership. So it means there are four types of costs in terms of inputs. Okay. Then there is one example. Let's move towards that. So in that example, let me give you a brief overview. Then we'll go towards its calculation. So we are talking about law of diminishing returns. It is same as that we discussed earlier in consumer behavior. That was law of diminishing marginal utility. It is same as that idea, but in that case, you were consuming something and the utility was falling after a certain point. Here we are talking that you are increasing inputs and its output is falling after a certain time. In this example, we'll try to explain how diminishing return works. So it's a consumer call center company. In this example, it receives calls from calls of customers for its clients. So it is outsourced business. So it is receiving calls uh, for their client from their customers, and for that business they need a computer, a desk, a telephone, and a person. So there are four inputs required to receive calls. Okay, the objective of the company is to attend as many calls as possible within the office hours. Okay, so office hours are 9 to 5 p.m. So it means 8 hours of work. Okay, the resource of the company is they have five desks, five telephone, and five computers in their office. So there are five offices developed. They each has one desk, one telephone, and one computer set available. The decision that they have to do is they have to hire labor, hire people, and so that they can receive calls. Now this table given is giving us calculation of how many hours a one person work and how many calls he can receive. So they have to decide that they can hire up till 10 people, but one person, if he works for 1 hour, he will receive one call. If he works 2 hours, he will receive two calls. So on. If he works till 8 hours, if he works for 8 hours, he will receive 11 calls. Okay. So this way, there are. This is a table for one person. So it means if you hire a labor for 8 hours, means full time, he will receive 11 calls throughout the day. And if you hire a one person for part time, he will receive only 5 calls in the 4 hours. So, so we have to draw a table showing how many calls received by the company for each labor from 1 to 10. Okay, so let me go to the calculation so that you can understand how it is working. So when the company hires first labor, it will work for 8 hours and he will have a call. So 1 into 8, so total hours are 8, and he will receive 11 calls. We have seen in the previous table. When they hire the second person, he will work for 16 hours and they will receive 22 calls, 8 plus 11 plus 11. Third person, 24 hours of work, 33 calls. Fourth person, 32 hours of work, 44 calls. Five people, 40 hours of work, 55 calls. So this is table number one, table number two, table number three, table number four, table number five. So they had five tables. So when they hire the sixth person, what they will do? They don't have a sixth table. So what they will do is they will request the fifth person to work part time, and the sixth person will also work part time. So it means the four people will be working full time, 4 into 8, plus two people will be working part time, so 2 into 4. So total, so four workers means these four full time and these two part time. So it means 40 hours. So 40 hours. So four people are working 8 hours, mean they are receiving 44 calls. Two people are working for part time and they will receive 10 calls. So answer is 54. Similarly, let me clear the screen. When they hire the seventh person, so it means we have to make one more person part time. So three are full time, and then next four are part time. Okay, so let me clear that up. So full time and part time. So it means three people are full time, so they are receiving 33 calls, plus four people are part time, means me they will receive 40 calls. So 33 plus 40 is uh, four people are part time, they are receiving 20 calls. So plus 20, so it is 53. So they are working 40 hours and the call received are 53. Notice that hours are not increasing anymore because they don't have any extra tables. So they it was their limit. After that, they are actually making people part time. So actually, technically, extra hours are not increasing, and after this level, the calls received are decreasing. Why? Because the full time person was receiving 11 calls, and part time person can receive only 5 calls. So two part time people will receive 10 calls. So one full time is better than two part time. So that's why the number is reducing. Okay. Similarly, when they have 8 people, what they will happen is they will have two full time and then remaining part time. So full time, part time. So two people full time, so it means 22 calls plus four people part time. So four fives are 20. So this is 52 calls. Okay. Similarly, Similarly, when they have 9 people, it means there is one full time and remaining 9 part time, remaining 8 part time. So full time, part time. So the answer is one full time, that is 11 plus four people, 8 people part time. So eight fives are 40. So that is 11 plus 40 is 51. Similarly, when they have all people part time, so all of them are part time. So 10 into 4 means 10 people multiplied by 5 hours is 50. So you can notice here is that this at this point, after this point, the things changed. Why? So this point is called the optimum level. Okay. This is the optimum level. And how what are the determinants of that level is, it is determined by the amount of other inputs. So if they have fixed amount of other inputs, so they can have a certain level of labor. After that, their output will fall. So below this point, increase in labor is increasing output. After that, increase in labor is decreasing output. Why it is so? So there are a few reasons. First, that the part-time workers are not effective as the full-time worker. Secondly, when you have when they are sharing the resources, so it means the resources are not properly used, so there will be less output. So let us draw this example and then create some conclusion out of it. So when I go to the next slide, you can see that what does this diagram show? So there is a certain number of labor below which there is an increase, which increasing labor is beneficial. So here you can see that for the 5 labor, increasing labor was increasing output. Increasing labor, increasing output. After which increasing labor is harmful to production, means after that increasing labor is decreasing output. That certain number is absorption capacity of the business. So we call it absorption capacity. So they can only absorb 5 labor in the current situation, and and this 5 labor depends upon the 5 computers, 5 tables, and five tables and 5 telephones. So what will happen if other inputs increase? So let me clear the screen and draw it here. So if their other inputs increase, what will happen? The curve will shift rightward and upward. So it will go one step more ahead, then come down. So it will stop at 6. If they have 7 tables, it will go up and then come down at 7. Similarly, if you increase the other inputs, the turning point will shift upward. So that it is increasing the absorptive capacity. So law of diminishing returns says that, let's go to the definition, then relate it together. So law of diminishing returns states that just like consumption, using more and more of one factor of production increasing output leads to a less and less benefit of extra unit of input. Just like the example of a tailor. So if you have a limited shop and limited tools, more and more, more if you hire more tailors, a time will come that number of tailors will be more than the resources the company has. So the production will slow down. So it explains that when a particular input number of tailors is increasing is zero, increasing it will increase the output more the increasing the input when the tailors are already excessively used. So it is saying that at low level of tailors, increasing tailor has more benefit as compared to when you're increasing tailors when they are many. So this is law of diminishing returns. So let's go to a diagram. So this shows that when return in input, hence we can see that in the start when the input is increasing, okay, you are talking about this case when there are few inputs. So increasing input is creating more output. Okay, but when input uh, start to decrease, input start to decrease when it becomes expensive. So at high level of input, it is not increasing output. So as a company in this stage, let's call it stage A and this is stage B. So inputs in stage A are cheap as they are giving us more benefit. Even though wages are same, but this input is giving us more reward. But input in stage B is expensive. Why? Because it is not giving us any benefit. So it is talking about these things. So if you if we have a certain absorptive capacity point, below that level our inputs are beneficial and they are cheaper. After the absorptive capacity point, they are expensive, so they will not be beneficial for the business. So law of diminishing return gives us a turning point or decision point. Okay, so these are few types of few examples of law of diminishing returns. So now we are going to discuss different calculations of the cost. So first term is marginal product of input. So marginal product or it's marginal product means how much output will increase if we increase 1 unit of input. So increase in output because of 1 unit of input. So this is called marginal product. So its formula is change in output divided by change in input. So y2 minus y1 divided by input 2 minus input 1. So here we are only talking about one type of input. So we will not compare all inputs. So rather than I will write, let's write the name of the input so that you are not confused. So labor 2 minus labor 1. So for example, on a single piece of land, some farmers are hired. The production will increase if there are more farmers. So increase in labor is increasing output. So in this case, MP is positive. Uh, but if more farmers are hired on the same land and again and again, then a time will come when the cost of increasing labor is cost will increase because the wages are given to them and they are not producing many things. So in this case, MP is less than zero. So it means in the diminishing marginal product case, when the inputs are less, the marginal product is positive, and when inputs are too many, the marginal product is negative. So this shows that the MP rises initially and then falls. And same way, when we discussed in our marginal utility case, the best possible labor is when MP is equal to zero. Just like when we said marginal utility is equal to zero is the best case for consumption. Here MP is equal to zero is best case for employing labor. Okay, so optimal labor can be employed, and the calculation can be done is when their marginal product is zero, we'll stop employing more labor, because the next labor will be expensive for us, because he, rather than increasing output, that labor is decreasing output. Okay, so the example that can be given is the example of PIA that we talk in news, that PIA versus Turkish Airways. Both have equal number of planes. Planes are equal, but PIA has 3 times more labor. So what is happening? So Turkish Airways are employing at MP is equal to 0, but we have 3 times more. It means our MP is less than 0. So that's why PIA is facing losses and Turkish Airways is in profit, because they are following the MP is equal to 0 case. So why cannot we cannot adjust it? Because it's a public business. So firing a public employee or hiring, it's technical issue, but the example is appropriate. Okay, next we go towards calculation. So same example came back. Now we are calculating the MP is equal to 0 case. So here we are hiring labor from 1 to 10. So we said that this is the cutoff point. Now we are looking at that increase in labor is increasing the number of calls. After a certain point, it is decreasing. So this is total hours. Now we are calculating the marginal product. Okay. So up till 0.5, our marginal product was greater than 0. It's positive. After a certain point, MP became less than 0 because it is negative. It means we should stop at 5, because after that it is becoming negative. Since we cannot move in points, so we cannot see the MP is equal to 0 point. It will be somewhere in between. But since we cannot divide the labor into 5.5, because they are whole numbers, so we will stop at a point where the last positive number is observed. So this way we are seeing that how marginal product is changing. Okay, next is, so this was the example of marginal product. Now we are talking about the concept of time cost in terms of time frame. So there are two types of cost when we are comparing in terms of time frame. First is short run cost and then long run cost. Okay, so short run costs are short run. First of all, we'll define what is short run and long run. Then we'll talk about short run cost and long run cost. Short run is a time frame in which some of the factor production are variable and at least one is fixed. So it means when company is expanding, but at least one of the input is fixed, it means that approach is short run. For example, during Ramzan season, the companies hire more labor and they employ more capital, but they do not hire more land or more managers. So hiring part-time workers to catch high sales season, this is temporary boost of production. So this is short run. Just like farmers hire a tractor at the end of the season to move the crops to the factory, to the markets. So they are not buying the tractor, they are hiring it. So it means they are expanding the output by only hiring, rather than they are not hiring more land, they are not hiring more labor, they are only hiring more capital. So it means other inputs are fixed. That's why that approach is short run. So idea behind it is that we know that the output increase is temporary, so we use the short run method. Next is a production time frame in which none of the variables are fixed. So it means we are actually expanding by increasing all inputs. So what will happen? So opening a new outlet of factory. When you open a new outlet, you will have more land. So there's a new factory. You will hire more labor because you need workers for that factory. and you need more capital because you need machinery and you need a manager. So it means all of the inputs are increased. So this is a permanent way of increasing output. So this is long run. Hope it is clear. So what is the difference between long run and short run? Next is we are going to define the types of cost based upon the calculation that we did earlier. So based upon short run and long run. So this first type is fixed cost, the cost of one factor of production which does not change with the increase in production. So even if there is an increase in production but that cost is not changing, so it means we can uh, call it fixed cost. For example, this UMT is have a limited building and they are increasing the number of students because they have a capacity to hold classes. So increase in number of students means increase in output, but still they are not increasing the land. So it means the rent of the building is same, and their guards are not increasing. So the cost of security guards is same. So it means these are fixed costs. Even though we are increasing output, the number of guards or the size of the building is same. It means at least these two costs are not changing. So they are example of fixed cost. So if we add all the fixed cost, we can call it total fixed cost. Then there is variable cost, the cost of one factor of production which increases with the increase in production. So if UMT is increasing the number of students, so there will be more electricity cost, faculty cost. So these costs are variable. So if you add all the variable cost, we can call it TVC, total variable cost, and this is TFC, and this is VC. So these are for two major types of costs. Now I will just show you the formula so that we can conclude today's session. So next is uh, clear, save it and then clear. Go to next slide. So total cost is total variable cost plus total fixed cost. So that is TC total cost is equal to total variable cost, total fixed cost, and average total cost, average variable cost will be average variable cost is equal to total variable cost divided by quantity that is produced. Or we can Q is equal to Y. We can also write Y. And average fixed cost is AFC is total fixed cost divided by quantity. So that is average fixed cost. Okay, and then average total cost will be, you can write average total cost in two ways. First is average total cost is equal to average fixed cost divided by average variable cost, or total cost divided by quantity. There are two ways to calculate average total cost. Okay, and in the last slide we are talking about the marginal cost. So this is average total cost. This is the third formula that we can use, total variable cost plus total fixed cost divided by quantity. Now we talk about marginal cost. So marginal cost is the total cost when one or more input is produced. So this is increase in total cost if one extra output is produced. So and marginal cost is TC2 minus TC1 divided by Q2 minus Q1. So change in total cost divided by change in quantity that is produced. It is the cost incurred on an additional unit of output as it is possible, as it is opposite to marginal product. So marginal product and marginal cost are opposites. So it means when marginal product is increasing, marginal cost is falling. When marginal product is falling, marginal cost is increasing. So they are opposite to each other. So this is showing us the gains from hiring more labor, and this is the cost of producing that output. So if the input is beneficial, then there will be less cost in producing that output. If inputs are costly, then the output will be produced expensive. Okay, so this was the session for today, where we talked about different types of costs in terms of short run and long run, and we defined marginal product and marginal cost based using the law of diminishing marginal product method.